Savitri was told to annul herself that only God may be. She has done that. That is the yogic siddhi, realization Savitri has already achieved. In her, the unseen, the unknown is now waiting for his hour. His hour has to come, and Savitri is ready to enter into that hour. In her, the unseen, the unknown waited his hour. But now she is sat by sleeping Satyavan. Savitri is doing her yoga in the night when everybody is asleep. But now she is sat by sleeping Satyavan, awake within, and the enormous night surrounded her with the unknowables vast, the ineffable, the indescribable, the total absolute, the reality beyond any conception and formation. That unknowable vast is now surrounding Savitri. But now she sat by sleeping Satyavan, awake within, and an enormous night surrounded her with the unknowables vast. It is a night which is surrounding her with the vast, the unknowable. A voice began to speak from her own heart. So while she is sitting by the side of sleeping husband, her Satyavan, by the side of her sleeping husband, Satyavan, she is awake within, and she hears a voice. A voice began to speak from her own heart that was not hers, yet mastered thought and sense. Somebody else is speaking. It is that somebody else who has mastered her thought, her sense, her karmendriya, her jnanendriya, the 5 organs of cognition. Everything is seized by that someone else, and it is through her that he is speaking. A voice began to speak from her own heart that was not hers, yet mastered thought and sense. As it spoke, all changed within her and without. Not only the change within her, but also without. As that voice started speaking, all was, all lived. She felt all being one. It is the experience of oneness in this entire creation. There was no more a universe built by mind. Savitri has already conquered her mind, conquered her life. And it is not through mind, through life, that Savitri is going to listen to that voice. The world of unreality ceased to be. There was no more a universe built by mind. This is what happens in our case. We build, we construct, we form a world by our mind, convicted as a structure or a sign. And because this is a world built by mind, It is a world of unreality. The nature of mind is to build a world of unreality. Savitri has gone beyond that. It is not mind which is going to build the world for her. Convicted as a structure or a sign, a spirit, a being saw created thing. It is not mind, the being, the spirit within her. It is he who is seeing all these creations, all these things, and cast itself into unnumbered form and was what it saw and made. So when the spirit, when the being builds a world, it builds a world of reality as against the world of unreality built by mind. All now became an evidence of one stupendous truth, a truth in which negation had no place. Negation had no place. A being and a living consciousness, a stark and absolute reality. This is what Savitri is experiencing as the voice spoke to her. As he spoke, all changed within her, and without, all was, all lived. She felt all being one. The world of unreality ceased to be. There was no more a universe built by mind, convicted as a structure or a sign. A spirit, a being saw created things and cast itself into unnumbered forms and was what it saw and made. All now became an evidence of one stupendous truth, a truth in which negation had no place, a being and a living consciousness, a stark and absolute reality. There, the unreal could not find a place. Obviously, in the stark and absolute reality, there is no place for the unreal. The sense of unreality was slain. If at all there is any sense of unreality, that was dissolved, eliminated, slain. The sense of unreality was slain. There all was conscious, made of the infinite. All had a substance of eternity, not the substance of inconscience, but the substance of eternity. It is on the substance that the creation was built there. There the unreal could not find a place. The sense of unreality was slain. There all was conscious, made of the infinite. All had a substance of eternity. Yet this was the same indecipherable. It seemed to cast from it universe like a dream, vanishing forever into an original void. If that indecipherable could cast a universe like a dream, that would disappear into the original void. Nothing would stay back. It would go back into the original void. But this was no more some vague, ubiquitous point or a cipher of vastness in unreal not. It is not true. This was no more some vague, ubiquitous point. This indecipherable casting a universe, was no more a vague, ubiquitous point or a cipher of vastness in unreal knot. It was the same, but now no more seemed far to the living grasp of her recovered soul. Yes, that soul just come back. It is that which could see all that. It was herself. It was the self of all. What she sees here, the universe was just cast by that indecipherable. It was herself. It was the self of all. It was the reality of existence. It was the reality of existing thing. It was herself. It was the self of all. It was the reality of existing thing. It was the consciousness of all that lived and felt and saw. It was timelessness and time. It was the bliss of formlessness and form. That is what the indecipherable has given rise. This is what Savitri sees in her soul. It was all love and one beloved's arm. This creation was all love in the arms of the beloved. It was sight and thought in one all-seeing mind. It was joy of being on the peace of God. It was joy of being on the peace of God. It was joy of being on the peace of God. It was joy of being on the peace of God. It was joy of being on the peace of God. She passed beyond time into eternity, slipped out of space and became the infinite. Her being rose into unreachable heights and found no end of a journey in the self. It plunged into the unfathomable deeps, the self of her. It plunged into the unfathomable deeps and found no end to the silent mystery that held all world within one lonely breast, yet harbored all creation's multitudes. It plunged into the unfathomable deeps and found no end to the silent mystery that held all world within one lonely breast, yet harbored all creation's multitudes. She was all vastness and one measureless point. She was a height beyond heights, a depth beyond depths. She lived in the everlasting and was all that harvests death and bears the wearing hours. She lived in the everlasting and was all that harvests death and bear the wearing hours. All contraries were true in one huge spirit, surpassing measure, change and circumstance. An individual, one with cosmic self, in the heart of the transcendence miracle, And the secret of world personality was the creator and the Lord of all. Yes, it is one creator and the Lord of all. An individual, one with cosmic self, Virat Purusha, Virat, in the heart of the transcendence miracle and the secret of world personality was the creator and the Lord of all. Mind was a single innumerable look. His mind, or that world personality, or that creator, was a single innumerable look. He sees many, many, many things without division of mind. Mind was a single innumerable look upon himself and all that he became. Life was a drama and a vast stage. Where is this drama of life going to be enacted? On the vast, on the stage of the vast. The universe was his body. God is soul. Such is the word personality. The secret of world personality is in the mind with a single innumerable look, with a life that is a drama on the stage of the vast. The universe itself, the body, and the soul, God Himself, the soul. That is what Savitri sees, the world personality. Mind was a single innumerable look upon himself and all that he became. Life was a drama and a vast stage. The universe was his body, God his soul. All was one single immense reality. The physical, the vital, the spiritual, the mental, the psychic, everything is one single immense reality. That is the personality of this Creator. All was one single immense reality. All is innumerable phenomenon. These are His creations, His manifestations, His display of the possibilities in existence. And the secret of world personality was the Creator and the Lord of all. Mind was a single innumerable look upon himself and all that he became. Life was a drama and a vast stage. The universe was his body, God his soul. All was one single immense reality. All is innumerable phenomenon. We are here, a very interesting line. Savitri passes beyond time into eternity. She slips out of space and becomes the infinite. Her being rises into unreachable heights. Her being rose into unreachable heights. Now what is it that is rising? Is it her being rose into innumerable heights? It was all love and one beloved's arms, Savitri in a state of beatitude, where love and the beloved are one. It was sight and thought in one all-seeing mind. It was joy of being on the peace of God. Is it the joy of being, or is it the joy of being on the peace of God? Is it the joy of being, or is it the joy of being on the peace of God? The construction would lend to both the possibilities. But in the context of the line, well, if you scan this line, it was joy of being on the peace of God. It would mean it was joy of being on the peace of God. Anapest, I am, Pirik, I am, I am. That is how the line will read. It was joy of being on the peace of God. It can also be scanned differently. It was joy of being on the peace of God. This line was scanned in that case as Pirik. It was joy of trucking, being trucking on the peaks and abyss of God I am. So it depends upon how one wants to get the sense of the line. The scansion also will depend upon the way one would like to get the sense of the line. But what could be the real sense of the line in the context of the description which is here? It was all love and one beloved's arms. It was sight and thought in one all-seeing mind. It was joy of being on the peace of God. So if we go by the previous lines, the line would naturally read as it was joy of being on the peace of God. Of being on the peace of God. That would be the sense if you scan the line with the help of the earlier description. It was all love and one beloved's arm. It was sight and thought in one all-seeing mind. It was joy of being on the peace of God. We are coming toward the end of the book of Yoga. The last paragraph of the last section of Canto 7 of the book of Yoga. Savitri was told to annul herself totally, that only God may be. She has done it. She has attained formless liberation. And in that formless liberation, what she sees in front of her is the world personality, the Creator, the Lord of all, the world personality, with a mind of innumerable look, with a life which is a drama on the stage of the vast, with a body that houses the whole universe, with a soul that is God Himself, mind an innumerable look, life, a drama on the vast as its stage, universe, the whole body, and God, the soul. It is that world personality which Savitri sees standing in front of her. Her spirit saw the world as living God. The remarkable result is that this whole world itself now presents to her as nothing but the living God Himself. It is He whom she sees in the world. It saw the One and knew that all was He. Her spirit saw the world as living God. It saw the One and knew that all was He. All was He. There is nothing but He alone. He everywhere. She knew Him as an absolute self-space, one with the self and ground of all things here, in which the world wanders seeking for the truth, guarded behind His face of ignorance. She followed Him to the march of endless time. She knew Him as an absolute self-space. Savitri sees that living God and His world as His own space, one with herself and ground of all things here, the support of everything here, in which the world wanders seeking for truth. The world is there and it is pursuing truth everywhere. She followed Him to the march of endless time, the truth. She is seeking through the endless time, through the entire process of evolutionary expansion and growth and ascension. All nature's happenings were events in her, in Savitri, in her. All nature's happenings were events in her. The heartbeats of the cosmos were her own. That is because she has identified herself, Savitri has identified herself totally with that world personality. All nature's happenings were events in her. The heartbeats of the cosmos were her own. All beings thought and felt and moved in her. She inhabited the vastness of the world. Its distances were her nature's boundaries. Its closenesses, her own life's intimacies. Her mind became familiar with its mind. Its body was her body's larger frame in which she lived and knew herself in it. One multitudinous is multitudes. The heartbeats of the cosmos, she has identified herself with it. And it is that she inhabited the vastness of the world, its distances of that world, were her nature's boundaries. His closenesses, her own life's intimacies. Distances were nature's boundaries. Closenesses, intimacies. Her mind became familiar with its mind. Its body was her body's larger frame, in which she lived and knew herself in it, one multitudinous in its multitude. She was a single being, yet all things. She was a single being, yet all things, tree, flower, birds, animals, creatures, everything, she was all at one, although it is one single being. She was a single being, yet all things. The world was a spirit's wide circumference. The thoughts of others were her intimates. Their feelings close to her universal heart. Their bodies, her many bodies, kin to her. She was no more herself, but all the world. The whole world could take refuge in a single heart, because she was no more herself, but all the world. She was a single being, yet all things. The world was a spirit's wide circumference. The thoughts of others were her intimates. They were not alien thoughts to her. They were her own thoughts. She could think in their mind as though their feelings close to the universal heart. Their bodies, her many bodies, kin to her. So her mind, her heart, her body, they have become universal. Out of the infinitudes, all came to her from every direction. Everything came to her. Out of the infinitudes, all came to her. And to the infinitudes sentient, she spread. As they all came to her, she also spread into them outward. Infinity was her own natural home. Human Savitri has found infinity as her natural home. Divine Savitri always lives in that natural home. But here, human Savitri, Savitri, who had taken the mortal birth, has found infinity as her own natural home. Nowhere she dwelt, neither here, there, no, nowhere she dwelt. Her spirit, because nowhere she dwelt, because her spirit was everywhere. Nowhere she dwelt, her spirit was everywhere. The distant constellations waved round her. Earth saw her born. All worlds were her colonies. The greater worlds of life and mind were hers. All nature reproduced her in its lines. Its movements were large copies of her own. That is the universalization of human Savitri. Nowhere she dwelt, her spirit was everywhere. The distant constellations wheeled round her. Earth saw her born. All worlds were her colonies. The greater worlds of life and mind were hers. All nature reproduced her in its lines. Its movements were large copies of her own. She was the single self of all these selves. She was in them, and they were all in her. She was the single self of all these selves. She was in them, and they were all in her. This first was an immense identity, in which her own identity was lost. What seemed herself was an image of the whole. It is that whole who had become that Savitri. She was a subconscious life of tree and flower, the outbreak of the honeyed bursts of spring. She burned the passion and splendor of the rose. She was the red heart of the passion flower, the dream white of the lotus in its pool. She was a subconscious life of tree and flower, the outbreak of the honeyed bursts of spring. Yes, she was those bursts of spring full of honey. She burned the passion and splendor of the rose. She burned the passion and splendor of the rose. She burned in the passion and splendor of the rose. I am Anabist, Greek again, and I am. She burned the passion and splendor of the rose. She was the red heart of the passion flower, the dream height of the lotus in its pool. Out of subconscious life, she climbed to mind. She was thought and the passion of the world's heart. She was the Godhead hid in the heart of man. She was the climbing of his soul to God. Out of subconscious life, she climbed to mind. She was thought and the passion of the world's heart. She was the Godhead hid in the heart of man. She was the climbing of his soul to God. The cosmos flowered in her. The cosmos flowered in her. She was its bed. In that nursery, it is that which had flowered everywhere. The cosmos flowered in her. She was the nursery of the cosmos. She was time and the dreams of God in time. She was time and the dreams of God in time. She was space and the wideness of His days. From this she rose, where time and space were not. She was time and the dreams of God in time. She was space and the wideness of His days. She was time and space, and she was not time and space also. From this she rose, where time and space were not. The subconscious was her native air. Infinity was her moment's natural space. Eternity looked out from her on time. It is through the eyes of Savitri That eternity is looking out on time, the process of time, the moments of time. It is Savitri's eyes, it is through them that eternity is looking out on time. She was time and the dreams of God in time. She was space and the wideness of his days. From this she rose where time and space were not. The subconscient was her native air. Infinity was her movements in natural space. Eternity looked out from her on time.